This is a recording of a video over at Charlie McLaughlin's. Charlie is a collector of International Harvester tractors, M's, MTAs, F20s, and he has just about every M that, or possibly every M year that they were made. How many tractors do you have, Charlie?
54.
54 tractors. Do you have every year that the M's were made?
Yes, yeah.
And now he has started on F20s. He has a regular that he has just purchased and restored. His latest purchase was an F20 that he bought in Kansas. Charlie has constructed a couple buildings to store all of his tractors in. He started 6 years ago. He started with one building and filled it. And then built the other building. To date, both buildings are full and there is no more room, so he's either going to have to quit restoring tractors or build another building. This is Charlie's home for retired farmalls. How many tractors do you have all total, Charlie?
I think about 54 probably.
And the first tractor that you started restoring was what?
1940 M, and I bought it to use, and then it found out, you know, it wasn't big enough, but that kind of started me. So then I started buying, but the 1940 was the first.
And how many years was the M's made?
They started them in '39 and made it through 1954.
And then they started the diesels after that?
No, diesels started in 1941, and the regular M started in 1939, the diesels in 41.
So when you started collecting them, you started with the M's, and then were there any of them that were hard for you to find?
Oh yeah, the diesels are all hard to find. There are very few. There weren't that many of them made originally, and most of them have gone to the scrap yards.
Now, how many years did they make the diesel?
They started it in 41 and made it through the M's. They made it through the 1954.
Now, are there any years of the diesels that you're still looking for, or do you have them all?
Oh no, you'd never be able to get them all, because those older ones I've never seen an older one, real old one. The oldest one I've ever seen, 1944, and only one of those. Most of them are 47 on up.
Now, how many diesels of the M's do you have?
I've only got 10. I'd like to have 20, but I've only got 10.
Yeah. And how many years have you been farming?
Oh, I started when I was in high school. I rented 80 acres. I graduated in 47, and I think I farmed the last 2 years I was in high school.
And when you was helping your dad and you first started, what tractors did you use then?
Oh, we had mostly F20s. We had one of the first M's too around, but then I farmed with F20s when I started farming.
So farming has progressed
quite a ways.
Quite a ways in those years. This tractor here, Charlie, is a 1940 M. Where does it fit in your collection?
This was the first one I bought 6 years ago, and I bought it to use, but decided it wasn't as big as I thought they were, and so I liked the tractor, so I just kept it, and then I started buying more. And so first year, I think I picked up 10 or 12, and they were easy to buy then because I didn't have anything. I could buy anything.
Well,
and as time went on, then they got, I wanted certain years, so, you know, it was a little harder to find them. And
were you able to find some of your first ones locally?
oh, a few, but most of them, you know, come from way off. I got several local from, I knew the original owners, and one was Harlan Peterson at New Windsor, and he was in the Navy, and when he got out of the Navy in 1946 in February, he ordered a new AM, and they were hard to get yet, so it was a whole year. He got it delivered Christmas Eve 1946, and that cost, he got the tractor and the plow, and that cost $1,638 in 1946.
Huh.
Well, now, you know, what tractors, that wouldn't even buy an old...
hardly buy the tires, would it?
No.
Yeah. Now this tractor here, was it bought locally?
Yeah, this was bought Don Strumquist at Opheme, and this was my first one. And he's kind of a tractor collector, so he buys and sells, so this wasn't his original tractor or anything. I've got a few of those kinds.
I imagine it probably wasn't in quite the good condition that it is now when you bought it either.
Well, it probably didn't look this good, but mechanically this one was pretty good. Some of these, well, most all of them needed paint, and a lot of them needed mechanical work. Probably 50% of them didn't even run when I got them. I'd drag them home dead.
And how far do you travel? Have you traveled to get some of the tractors for your collection?
Oh, it's a 5-state collection, I think. Indiana, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa. I guess that's 4 states. I don't know.
And then the last one you got was from?
Oh, Kansas. Yeah, it came out of Northwest Kansas.
So you've went.
Well, I didn't go for that one. The guy bought it for me, and had it shipped up here. So it's like now I'm more selective, and they're harder to find what I want, and so I'll probably have to go further.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, I imagine it helps being able to have people in other areas of the Midwest that would kind of be your eyes and ears, and when a tractor that you would be interested in would
oh yeah,
come up for sale, while you'd be able to know that.
In some cases, I've had people buy them for me, and they'll keep their eyes open. And then,
yeah. I suppose there's a lot of different conditions of the tractors that you have in your collection. When you first got them, some I suppose were not even put together, and you had to...
Yeah, that's right. I've got a few, I call them frame tractors. They're just frame and wheels and engines, a pile of parts, and lots of them with blocks that are no good, and you have to get a whole block, and
a lot of engine repair, and radiators, and
well, radiators I've been really lucky with, but it's blocks that have had water in them, and after so many years, the block just rusts away clear into the sleeves, and they're just junk. And I have to put sleeves and pistons in quite a few, and grind the valves on lots of them, but or paint them. But
are parts fairly easy to find to repair the tractors, to get them in this condition?
You still get plenty of parts for AMs in a junkyard. MDs, they're just almost unavailable. There's a lot of after manufacturers making new parts, and but they're so darn expensive.
Yeah.
As far as getting them through international, they just kind of laugh at you when you go in there.
Yeah.
A good international dealer can be quite helpful, but most of the dealers now, the newer dealers, they just don't care, you know, about the older stuff.
So it's a lot easier to find the parts for the M's than it is like the F20s or the diesels, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
because there's more M's, there were more M's made
Yeah.
too,
well,
I suppose.
the F20s aren't quite as hard because there was an awful lot of those made. The problem with the diesels, they didn't make very many of them to start with.
Yeah,
And too expensive, and
yeah.
they're mostly gone.
And I imagine it's hard to get the pumps and everything rebuilt, expense-wise. It's
Expensive, yes. Up to $1,000 on the pump, but I finally found a guy that rebuilds them reasonably, and most of them he does under $400. So, and then you have to rebuild the injectors on them.
yeah, a lot of work to get them back into running condition.
Well, it's expensive to get a diesel going again.
Yeah, and a lot of these tractors were stored, some inside for many years, and I suppose some that were outside and were never taken care of too, I suppose.
Right, and these diesel pumps, if you don't use the tractor or run them, probably, you know, periodically, is best every year, you know, then the pumps stick.
Yeah,
The main plunger in the pump will stick, and that means, you know,
another repair.
$400 or $500.
Yeah,
And so you almost have to start them up a couple times a year on
Yeah.
a diesel. It's
Well,
not
that's-
like a gas tractor.
that's quite an investment for you to keep them in just running condition after you've went to all the work of restoring them.
Yeah, that's why I wonder how much longer I'm going to do it. Because
Just gasoline and antifreeze and charging batteries and
yeah, you
airing up the tires. And
it's quite an expense, really. It's not
a lot of that maintenance you don't think about.
Yeah, I didn't think about that when I started
Yeah.
this. Now, you know, when you go out there and replace 5-6 batteries a year maybe, and you know, and there's a lot of things. And the gas, when it sits, you know, needle valves stick in the carburetors. And
Yeah.
tanks have to be cleaned, and it's there's a lot more to it than most people realize.
Yeah, a lot of maintenance to take care of in order to keep them in a condition
Yeah.
that you can start them and run them. Well, of all the tractors that you have, Charlie, which is an extensive collection, we just have probably an acre of tractors here. The next one that you would like to find, is there one special one that you would kind of like to get your hands on and restore next?
Well, I'd like to get an old regular that was built in 1929 because that was the year I was born. That would be kind of nice.
Now, the regular that you have just bought in Kansas, now what year was it?
Well, that was an F20,
Oh, that was an F20.
but it was in 1936. I got a regular not too long ago from an estate, and it was in 1931.
31, I see.
72 years old. Gosh, it's
Yeah,
unbelievable, and runs good.
yeah, runs real well. It wasn't quite in that condition when you got it, but most of the repairs that you had to do were more superficial than mechanical. Is that correct?
Yeah, this tractor was run good. It just, yeah, it needed a lot of tinkering, and some parts weren't original, and I had to change certain parts and repaint. But it's got the original tires that went on after they changed it over from steel, and they're about 50 years old, and they're in good condition yet.
Well, let's go take a look at that. This is the regular that you bought, Charlie. You bought it locally, did you?
Well, fairly, 40 miles from home, and it was an estate. An old fellow owned it, and he died, and it was his grandson. The estate was selling it.
And they're pretty hard to find. Is that correct?
Right. They had two of them, but the grandson kept one, and I suppose the best one. I didn't see it. But they had old trucks, old machinery. He had on that sale, he had 6 M's, 400. I don't know how many tractors, lots of them.
He had collected quite a few then.
Well, I think he just used them. What he did, he mounted a piece of equipment on every tractor, and he had a corn picker on one, and a mower on one, and this and that, you know, and he just...
He didn't really restore them, he just used them.
He just used them.
They had been stored for a few years then?
Yeah, but inside and maintained, they've started.
Boy, that makes a difference when you're trying to add to your collection, if they've been showed a little care and so that the engines aren't stuck. And
these next two, these F-20s, I bought them from a guy. They'd been stored in a building for, he thought he'd put them in there about 40 years ago. They were both stuck, really bad shape, you know. And I spent 2 months on these tractors and a lot of engine work. It cost me too much money, but I did it. But they had been inside. They're nice straight tractors. Tires were all flat, and I didn't think they'd hold air to get home. And they still, you blow them up, and they haven't lost any air. They look good.
Well, they sure look brand new now.
Well, the front tires are all new, but
well, I think they found a good home.
Yeah, as long as they don't run out of buildings.
Well, speaking of that, when you get your tractors in your storage buildings, it's pretty full now.
Yeah, it was completely full when I got them out. See, I still had room to walk around them, and I'm going to pack them in there a lot better now. Hopefully I'll make room for some more. But I hate that when you can't walk around every tractor.
Yeah. Well, now you keep the batteries charged up, trickle charged?
Well, I don't use trickle chargers. I use float chargers.
Oh.
They maintain the charge in the battery without boiling the water. They're automatically shut off and on.
I see. So
or a trickle charger boils the water out over a period of months, and they're okay for short periods. So I've got over 40 chargers, I guess.
Now the M's that we have behind you back here, they have steel wheels on them.
Yeah.
Some of them.
I don't want any more of those. In fact, I had more. I put rubber on them. I like them, the looks of them, but I don't like when I get on the seat and drive them.
Yeah.
It just shakes the tractor to pieces almost.
Yeah. I'll bet there's a lot of difference between that and a tractor with rubber tires.
Oh yeah, world of difference. It's just hard to believe we farmed with those at one time. That's what my dad had, and I run them some, but I was pretty little then, so.
Well, let's go over here and take a look at some of the M's that were really hard for you to find, and talk about them for just a minute. I see you have a 1943 M here, Charlie. Was it one of the harder ones for you to find?
Yeah, that was the hardest one. That was the least number of Farmalls that ever was built in one year, was the 1943s. And yeah, I hunted for several years for that. And I don't know how the guy found out about me wanting one, but he was from Paris, Illinois, and down by Terre Haute, Indiana. And he gave me a call and said somebody had told him I was looking for one, and I made a deal with him and bought that thing sight unseen. And it was in pieces too. But
well, that was quite a find, though.
Yeah, the main thing was the 1945 was a real hard one too. And I bought it. I'd been looking for it, and I bought it at the same time, and I got them both hauled home on the same semi-load.
Boy, that was a find. That was quite a day for you.
And it was right over here at La Rose, Illinois. So well,
I suppose they probably didn't make quite as many because of the war.
Well, Yeah, but it's funny though, because 42, that was wartime, and they made a lot of them, and 44 they made quite a few, and then 43 they cut back. I don't know if they made more H's or what, but their production was down in 43, and it was a little low in 45 too. Well then, of course, by 46 they were just making tons of them again, you know, after the war, and
yeah,
toward the end of the war they got back into production, going good. But they made tractors all the way through, but they were just limited supply and hard to get. But yeah, I was glad to see these last two. That filled in my collection. And
yeah, those well, you sure have quite a collection. You have M's and Super M's, and what other models do you have?
Oh gosh, 300. I've got a 350 Continental diesel.
Looks pretty nice there, Charlie.
You have other tractors besides M's, Charlie. What are some of the other models that you have?
Oh, let's see. After the M, let's see. I pick up 400. I got 400 and 300. That was the next models. I've got those, and then it went to the 50 series. I've got 450s, 3 of those, and a 350 with a Continental diesel, which was very rare. Not too many of those around. And then after the 450, I guess it went to 560. I got 560. Then the next one would be 806, but they're a little too expensive for me, you know, to buy and put away in the shed.
Well, they're pretty good size too to try to store. They're a bigger tractor, aren't they?
But who wants to put $4,000 or $5,000 in one and just park it away in a building?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But so that's when I decided to work backwards from 39 and start on the older F20s and regulars,
Yeah.
which they're coming in pretty fast. I don't know. I'll probably run out of out of those to buy.
They're a little more of a challenge to find than a 560.
Well, they're fun to work on too. You know, they're a little smaller. I can. You don't have to paint them on a step ladder.
Yeah, not near as complicated.
No, not real. Some things are harder. You know, they use shims in all the bearings, and they use ball bearing mains, and everything's pressed in there. They're quite different to work on.
And I suppose some of those parts are hard to find.
Well, like I bought a rear main for one. That's just $150 for one bearing. You can buy them through bearing companies, but it's expensive, and you can get most anything if you hunt long enough.
Yeah.
A lot of after manufacturers now, and there's still a lot of stuff in junkyards. The problem is a lot of them are out in the weeds, and you got to take your own parts off. And I hate that worse than anything going out there.
Some of the other models of the tractors that you have, Charlie, tell us a little bit about them.
Well, I've got A, B, and C, and H's, and this little B was a 2-row. You could use a 2-row cultivator on it. And the A is the same tractor, only it's a 1-row. It's what you call a cultivision. You sit right over the row and has a 1-row cultivator. Of course, then you get into the C, and it's a little bigger tractor. It was a pretty popular tractor, the C. I never had one, but I did have a B when I farmed, but pretty small.
How many years were they made? Were they made for very many years?
Yeah, quite a few years, but I can't tell you the years offhand without looking in the...
I see this is a 1950.
Yeah, and then they went to, after the straight C, they went to a Super C.
Okay.
I don't know what year they started the Super C, but then they made it quite a while. Well, like the other Super series.
Around 1950, when this tractor was made, they were really in high production of the M's.
Oh yeah, that was that was after the war, and everybody seemed to have a lot of money to buy them with. I don't know. It's a lot of tractors out there. But the smaller tractors are hard to find up here this far north, because you go south like to Florida and some of those southern states, and those A's and B's are you know, all over.
Yeah.
But by the time you ship them home, they're not cheap.
Yeah. Well, I suppose they still use them down there in the south too.
They're using them.
Yeah.
And they have high crops too, you know, A's and B's, or A, and then was it made in a high crop. And
Now this is a picture of your A. I see it's a 1940. Now, did they make those in alphabetical order according to the years, Charlie, or the A first and then the B and the C, or?
No, they were all started pretty much, I think, pretty much the same year.
I see. They were just different size and then used for different.
A was the little one, then the B, and then the C and the H. They just progressed, you know, in letters. But this is the same as the B, only it's a one row.
I see.
And cute little tractor, but it's an awful hard tractor to get on and off of. It's like,
it's the narrow.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's narrow and sort of high, and it's easier to get on than it is off. If you get down in there, and where the M's and H's, they're so nice to get on and off of.
Yeah.
And,
now, what else did you want to show us here? A 39M.
Well, yeah. Here's an H. I only have a couple of those. But, it's sort of a medium-sized tractor, smaller than an M. Well, here's a 39M here with a single front wheel. And there's another 39 right behind it. This was the first year they made the Farmall M's. And I've got 3 of these. It was sort of a hard year to get, but I was lucky I found 3 of them. And I've got one of them on steel, one with a single front wheel.
Did they produce a lot of M's in 39, Charlie?
No, because that was a split year. See, they made 39s or F20s the first half of the year.
I see.
So you could buy a 39 F20 or a 39M. So this is a low production number too.
I see. So it was
hard year, but these have been preserved better than the M's. You know, there's more of those available than some of the models, but yeah, everybody wanted a 39 since that was the first year they made them.
Well, Charlie, this is quite a collection that you have here. You get them out once or twice every year, is that correct?
Yeah, when I didn't have so many, it used to be twice or 3 times, but now there's so darn many, I hate to do it once a year even.
Yeah. Well, it's been a nice visit through the era of the International M's and the diesels and the tractors that you've collected, and appreciate you giving us the time to record this.
Yeah, it's been fun. Been hot, but it's been okay.
Thank you very much.